Hey guys, tonight we're taking a deep dive into a part of Roman history that's often glossed over when we talk about gladiators and emperors. We're going to explore what it was truly like to be a woman in ancient Rome. Forget the powerful empresses you see in movies or the occasional strong female character in a historical drama. For the vast majority of Roman women, life was a carefully circumscribed existence, defined by men, law, and social expectation. You'd probably hate it. From the moment you drew your first breath, your world was designed to be one of limited choices and constant male guardianship. In fact, if you were transported back, you likely wouldn't survive the cultural shock, let alone the actual living conditions. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. From the moment you are born into a Roman family, whether it's a grand patrician household or a humble plebeian dwelling, your gender immediately defines your place. You are female, effemina, and this simple biological fact immediately puts you under the legal and social authority of a male guardian, a paterfamilias. This isn't just your father, it could be your grandfather, or if they are deceased, the eldest male relative in your family line. This paterfamilias holds immense power, known as patria potestas, literally, fatherly power. He has legal control over your life, your property, and your very person. He can arrange your marriage, sell you into slavery, though this became rare in practice for Roman citizens, and even has the theoretical right of life and death over you. Though again, this was seldom exercised in later Roman history without severe social repercussions. Still, the underlying principle is clear: you are not your own. You are always someone's dependent, a perpetual minor in the eyes of the law. You grow up understanding this fundamental truth. Your brothers, even your younger brothers, possess rights and a future that are fundamentally different from yours. They will inherit property, pursue public careers, vote, and serve in the army. Your path is internal, domestic, and largely invisible to the public sphere, even if you are born into a wealthy family, surrounded by luxury. This legal dependency is a constant, invisible chain. You might have beautiful silks and fine jewelry, but your legal personhood is still ultimately controlled by the men around you. This is a common historical fact, often emphasized when discussing Roman women, their unique legal status under patria potestas. Your early life, particularly your childhood, is structured around preparing you for your eventual role as a wife and mother. While Roman girls, especially from wealthier families, might receive a basic education, learning to read, write, and perhaps some arithmetic, it is almost always focused on skills relevant to household management. You won't be studying rhetoric, law, or philosophy in preparation for a public career. Your lessons will likely include spinning, weaving, managing slaves, and overseeing household accounts. For plebeian girls, formal education might be minimal, and you would be expected to learn practical skills from your mother from a very young age, contributing to the family's livelihood through domestic tasks or simple trades. The toys you play with, the stories you are told, all reinforce your future. You might play with dolls, miniature cooking utensils, or tiny weaving looms. You are taught modesty, obedience, and the virtues of being a good Roman wife. Your identity is largely shaped by your relationship to men, as a daughter, a wife, and eventually, a mother. The idea of an independent, self-sufficient woman is largely foreign to Roman society, and certainly not something encouraged. One fascinating, often overlooked detail is the naming convention for Roman women. Unlike men, who had multiple names, a praenomen, nomen, and cognomen, you, as a Roman woman, typically only had one, the feminine form of your father's nomen. So, if your father was named Cornelius, you would simply be Cornelia. If he had two daughters, They might be Cornelia Mayer the elder and Cornelia Minor the younger. If he had even more, they might be numbered. This simple linguistic fact powerfully illustrates your subordinate identity, always linked to your male lineage, without the distinct individual identity afforded to men. It's a subtle but significant historical point that reinforces your limited societal role. As you grow, your social interactions are also carefully monitored. You are expected to be modest, to avoid public scandal, and to maintain the honor of your family. Unchaperoned outings are rare, and your reputation is paramount. A single whisper of impropriety could ruin your marriage prospects and bring shame upon your entire family. The weight of this expectation is heavy, a constant pressure to conform to strict social norms. You are always aware of watchful eyes, both within your family and from society at large. Even within your own home, your position, while potentially respected as a paterfamilias mistress of the house, is still fundamentally secondary to your husband's. He holds legal authority over you, and his word is law within the household. While you might manage the daily running of the home, supervise slaves, and raise the children, these are considered extensions of his authority, not independent domains. You are the efficient manager of his domestic sphere, not an autonomous agent. The constant need for male guardianship pervades every aspect of your life. If your paterfamilias dies, you are immediately assigned a new guardian, perhaps your husband, or if unmarried, another male relative. You cannot conduct legal transactions, inherit property, or even appear in court without the approval or presence of your guardian. While some Roman women, particularly in the later Republic and Empire, managed to navigate these restrictions through various legal loopholes like tutela mulierum, the fundamental legal principle of male oversight remained, underscoring your inherent vulnerability and lack of full legal personhood. So, from the moment you are a tiny infant, your destiny is largely preordained by your gender. You are born into a world where your value is primarily defined by your potential for marriage and childbearing, and your identity is inextricably linked to the men who control your legal existence. It's a life of significant limitations, far removed from the modern concepts of individual freedom and autonomy. And as we continue our journey, you'll see just how deeply these initial conditions shaped every aspect of your Roman life. As the fragile light of morning filters into your Roman home, your childhood unfurls not as a time of carefree play and limitless possibilities, but as a structured apprenticeship for your inevitable future. From the earliest age, your life as a Roman girl is meticulously shaped by strict gender roles, preparing you for a destiny primarily confined within the domestic sphere. This isn't about personal aspirations, it's about fulfilling your duty to your family and, by extension, to the Roman state. Your education, if you receive one, is strikingly different from that of your brothers. While they might attend formal schools, learning rhetoric, law, and military strategy, subjects essential for public life, your learning is almost entirely practical and domestic. In a wealthy household, you might have a tutor, possibly a literate slave or a freedwoman, who teaches you to read and write. But this literacy isn't for intellectual pursuits. It's for managing household accounts, reading simple letters, and overseeing your husband's domestic affairs. You learn to spin wool, weave fabric, and perhaps embroider, skills considered essential for a Roman matron, even if your family owns dozens of slaves to do the actual labor. The whirring of the spindle, the rhythmic click of the loom, these are the sounds that often accompany your early lessons, imprinting upon you the importance of domus home and its management. For girls in plebeian or less affluent families, formal education is often non-existent. Your schooling takes place at your mother's side. You learn by doing fetching water from the communal fountain, grinding grain for bread, mending clothes, and caring for younger siblings. You master the essential, arduous tasks that keep your humble household running. If your family runs a small shop, perhaps you learn basic arithmetic to help with sales. Your hands become calloused young, your back accustomed to the bend of labor. There's no time for childish whims. Every moment is an investment in your family's survival. This stark contrast in educational opportunity, dictated by social class and gender, is a fundamental historical truth of Roman society. Your playtime, too, is a subtle form of instruction. You might play with dolls, often made of clay, wood, or even ivory for the wealthy, dressing them in miniature togas or stolas. You mimic the rituals of marriage, the management of a household, and the care of infants. These aren't just toys, they are tools of socialization, reinforcing the roles you are expected to inhabit. You learn modesty, obedience, and the quiet dignity expected of a Roman girl. Boys play at soldiering or politics, you play at being a wife and mother. Discipline in a Roman household is often strict. Whether you're a patrician's daughter or a plebeian's child, you are taught to defer to your elders, especially the paterfamilias. Unquestioning obedience is paramount. Physical punishment isn't uncommon, seen as a necessary means to instill virtue and ensure compliance. This rigid upbringing is designed to produce a univira, a woman who has only one husband, and a virtuous matrona, dedicated to her family and household. A particularly telling detail about your childhood is the practice of dedicating your childhood toys to the gods, particularly to Venus or Diana. When you are on the cusp of marriage, this act marks the symbolic end of your girlhood and your readiness to transition into womanhood and marital duties. It's a formal acknowledgement that your playful days are over, and a new, more serious phase of life is beginning, devoid of the carefree innocence associated with childhood in many other cultures. It's almost as if you're surrendering your last vestiges of personal freedom before embarking on a predetermined path. As you approach puberty, around the age of 12 or 13, your childhood definitively ends. This is the age when you are considered ready for marriage. While a Roman boy would be preparing for his toga virilis and entry into public life, you are preparing to leave your father's home and enter your husband's. Your value, increasingly, is assessed by your suitability as a wife, your modesty, your domestic skills, your family's status, and, crucially, the size of your dowry. The concept of chastity is paramount for a Roman girl. Your virginity is a family asset, a guarantee of your purity and an essential component of your marriageability. You are carefully guarded, your movements restricted, and any hint of impropriety could bring immense shame upon your family and ruin your prospects. This intense focus on female chastity, while common in many ancient societies, often placed an immense psychological burden on young Roman women, limiting their freedom and increasing their anxiety. Historians still debate the true extent to which these ideals were upheld in practice, but the societal pressure was undoubtedly enormous. You learn early on that your voice in household decisions is secondary. If present at all, your opinions are rarely solicited, and your role is to comply with the wishes of your father, and later, your husband. This doesn't mean you are without influence. Roman women, particularly wealthy ones, often exerted considerable informal power within the household and through their male relatives. But this influence is always indirect, a subtle manipulation rather than direct authority. You are taught the art of persuasion, not command. So, your childhood and education in Rome are not about individual self-discovery or the pursuit of personal dreams. They are about preparation for a highly specific, predefined role. You are molded, from your earliest days, into the ideal Roman wife and mother, a figure who, while respected within the domestic sphere, is largely silent and legally dependent in the wider world. It's a life of boundaries, of expectations, and of a future that is largely mapped out for you before you even learn to read. As the last echoes of your girlhood fade, often marked by that symbolic dedication of your childhood toys to the gods, your life takes an irreversible turn. You are now of marriageable age, perhaps as young as 12 or 13, and your future is about to be decided, not by you, but by the men who hold patria potestas over your life. For a Roman woman, marriage is less a passionate union of two souls and more a pragmatic transaction, a strategic alliance between families, often orchestrated long before you even understand its full implications. Love, if it happens at all, is a fortunate byproduct. not the driving force. Your wedding day is typically a formal, public affair, but not necessarily one of immense joy for you, the bride. The primary purpose is to solidify family ties, secure inheritances, enhance social status, or even settle debts. If you are from a wealthy family, your father will arrange a match with a man of similar or higher standing, perhaps a rising politician or a seasoned senator. The goal is to secure a powerful alliance for your family. For plebeian women, the focus might be on securing economic stability, marrying into a family with a steady trade or a small plot of land that can combine resources with your own. The idea of free choice in a spouse is almost entirely alien to Roman thought, particularly for women. The most common form of marriage for you would be cum manu with hand, especially in the earlier republic. In this type of marriage, you legally passed from the control of your paterfamilias into the manus hand of your husband. This meant you became, legally speaking, like a daughter to your husband, giving him complete authority over you and any property you brought into the marriage. You effectively gained a new paterfamilias. This system ensured a rigid patriarchal structure, placing you firmly under male control throughout your life. It's a stark reminder that even within your marriage, your individual autonomy was virtually non-existent. However, over time, a new form of marriage, sine manu without hand, became increasingly popular, particularly among the elite. In this type, you remained legally under the authority of your original paterfamilias, even after marriage. This meant your husband did not gain legal control over your property, and you could potentially inherit from your own family. While this offered a degree of financial independence that was previously unheard of for Roman women, it didn't fundamentally change your lack of legal personhood. You still needed a male guardian to conduct any significant legal transactions. It simply shifted which man held authority over you, rather than freeing you from that authority entirely. This evolution of marriage law is a fascinating subject of historical debate. With scholars still exploring its true impact on female autonomy, central to your marriage is the dowry dose. This is the property, typically a sum of money or goods, that your father or guardian provides to your husband upon marriage. The dowry is not a gift to you. It's a contribution to the expenses of the new household and a form of financial security for your husband. It also serves as a critical incentive for your husband to remain in the marriage, as he would be obligated to return at least a portion of it if the marriage ended. The size of your dowry could significantly influence your standing within your new household and your husband's family. A large dowry brought prestige. A small one might mean you were seen as less valuable. It was a rather blunt instrument for measuring a woman's worth. The wedding ceremony itself, while important, often lacked the emotional fanfare of modern weddings. There would be a formal agreement, witnessed by several people, where your father transferred you to your husband. There might be a procession, perhaps a small feast, and certain symbolic rituals, like the bride being carried over the threshold. But the focus was on the legal and social implications, not necessarily on the emotional bond between the bride and groom. For you, the bride, it was a day of profound transition, moving from one male-dominated household to another. Once married, your primary duty is to be a good Roman wife and mistress of the household paterfamilias. This means managing the domestic sphere, overseeing the slaves, ensuring the household runs smoothly, and maintaining your husband's reputation. You are expected to be frugal, industrious, and modest. Your virtue is tied directly to your husband's honor. Any hint of infidelity or impropriety on your part could bring immense shame upon him and his family. The pressure to conform to this ideal is constant and unforgiving. For many women, particularly in the lower classes, the management of the household also involved significant physical labor. While wealthier women supervised, you might be actively engaged in spinning, weaving, cooking, cleaning, and raising children, all while managing your household's meager resources. Your work is never-ending, often invisible and rarely celebrated beyond the confines of your family. One of the most profound expectations of your marriage is to produce children, particularly sons, to continue your husband's family line. Your value as a wife is often directly linked to your fertility. Failure to produce children, especially male heirs, could be grounds for divorce, or at least a source of immense pressure and anxiety. We'll delve deeper into the dangers of childbirth in the next section, but suffice it to say, this expectation carries significant risk. This central role of procreation is a commonly understood aspect of Roman marriage. The concept of love in marriage, as we understand it, was not a primary consideration. While affection and companionship could certainly develop over years of shared life, the initial arrangement was typically pragmatic. It's a bit like a business merger. The hope is that the two entities will eventually work well together, but the initial agreement isn't based on mutual affection. This isn't to say Romans were incapable of love or devotion within marriage, but it wasn't seen as a prerequisite for entering into the institution. Historians continue to debate the extent of genuine affection in Roman marriages, often finding evidence of deep bonds in personal letters and epitaphs, even within the rigid framework. So, your journey into marriage as a Roman woman is far removed from modern romantic ideals. It is a legal and social arrangement designed to serve the interests of families and the state. You enter it as a dependent, transition to another form of dependency, and your value is largely measured by your domestic efficiency and your ability to produce heirs. It's a life lived within carefully drawn lines, where personal desire often takes a back seat to duty and expectation. As you settle into your role as a Roman wife, the next crucial, and often terrifying, chapter of your life begins motherhood. For you, a Roman woman. Bearing children is not merely a personal desire. It is your primary societal duty, the very purpose for which your marriage was largely contracted. Your value, your status within your husband's household, and your family's future often hinge upon your ability to produce heirs, particularly sons, to carry on the family name and legacy. This immense pressure, coupled with the brutal realities of ancient medicine, makes childbearing an undertaking fraught with danger and constant anxiety. Imagine the fear that grips you with each pregnancy. There are no reliable tests, no prenatal care as we understand it. You simply notice the changes in your body, and the realization dawns you are carrying a child. For 9 months, you live with an unspoken dread. Miscarriage is common, a frequent and heartbreaking occurrence that leaves you physically drained and emotionally bereft. Even if the pregnancy progresses, the act of childbirth itself is incredibly perilous. There are no sterile environments, no trained doctors with modern surgical techniques readily available. You would be attended by an experienced midwife, often a freedwoman or a trusted older female slave, who relies on centuries of passed-down knowledge, intuition, and perhaps a few herbal remedies. The labor is agonizing, often prolonged for days. Infections are a constant threat, both during and after delivery. Hemorrhage, fever, and exhaustion can quickly claim your life. Many Roman women, even those from wealthy families, died in childbirth. The epitaphs on tombs across the Roman world frequently tell a grim story: young women dying at 20, 25, 30, often with the heartbreaking phrase, "who died giving birth." This grim historical fact underscores the immense personal risk you undertake with each pregnancy, a risk that disproportionately affects women in ancient societies. You are literally risking your life, over and over again, for the continuation of your family line. And even if you survive childbirth, the infant mortality rate is appallingly high. A significant percentage of Roman children do not live past their first year, succumbing to common diseases like dysentery, smallpox, or simply malnutrition and poor hygiene. You might experience the crushing grief of burying multiple children, a common and utterly devastating experience for Roman mothers. Each tiny life lost is a blow to your heart, a testament to the harshness of the world you inhabit. You learn to steel yourself, to love fiercely, but also with a guarded heart, knowing that the next illness could snatch another child away. Despite these dangers, the pressure to produce many children is immense. This is especially true if you are from a prominent family, where the continuation of a distinguished lineage is paramount. For plebeian families, More children mean more hands to help with labor, more potential income, and a greater chance of a few surviving to care for you in your old age. The expectation is that you will be prolific, even if it means repeatedly risking your life and enduring profound loss. If you are a woman of means, you might employ a wet nurse Nutrix to breastfeed your infant. This allows you to recover from childbirth more quickly and potentially resume social duties or even conceive again sooner. For plebeian women, however, breastfeeding your own children is a necessity, not a choice. It binds you even more closely to the domestic sphere and limits your ability to engage in outside labor, further highlighting the economic disparities between classes. This practice, while common, is a point of academic debate. Some historians argue it weakened the maternal bond, while others suggest it allowed elite women more freedom. For you, a plebeian mother, it's simply a biological given. Your relationship with your children, especially those who survive, is profound. You are their primary caregiver, their first teacher, and their source of comfort. You teach them practical skills, instill Roman values, and prepare them for their own predetermined roles in society. While your husband holds ultimate patria potestas over them, your influence in their daily upbringing is undeniable. You are the emotional heart of the household, even if your legal authority is limited. The birth of a son is usually met with greater celebration than the birth of a daughter. A son ensures the continuation of the family name, provides future labor or military service, and will eventually inherit property. A daughter, while loved, is seen as an investment for marriage, who will eventually leave your household and require a dowry. This subtle, yet pervasive, societal preference for male children is a constant undercurrent in your life. Even when your children grow older, your role as a mother doesn't end. You continue to guide them, offer advice, and maintain the emotional bonds of the family. If your husband dies, and your sons come of age, they might assume patria potestas over you, continuing the cycle of male guardianship. However, a Roman mother, particularly one who had borne many children, especially sons, could command significant respect within her family and society. Her influence, though often informal, was real. She might act as an advisor to her sons, a matchmaker for her daughters, and a respected elder in her community. This informal power is a fascinating nuance often explored by scholars studying Roman women. So, your journey into motherhood as a Roman woman is a path fraught with danger and profound responsibility. It is a constant cycle of hope, fear, grief, and resilience. You embody the very continuation of Roman society, sacrificing your body and your peace of mind to ensure the future of your family. It is perhaps the most defining and demanding aspect of your life, a testament to your quiet strength in the face of overwhelming odds. As you settle into your Roman marriage, whether it's in a sprawling patrician domus or a humble plebeian insula, your daily existence revolves almost entirely around the household. This is your domain, your universe, often described as a golden cage if you are wealthy, or more simply, a prison of endless labor if you are not. Regardless of your social standing, your life is largely confined to the domestic sphere, a stark contrast to the public, political lives of Roman men. If you are a woman from a wealthy family, your day might begin in a luxuriously appointed bedroom, attended by slaves. Yet, even with slaves, your role as mistress of the house paterfamilias is far from idle. Your primary responsibility is management. You oversee the dozens, perhaps hundreds, of slaves who perform every conceivable task, from cooking and cleaning to educating your children and weaving fabric. You delegate duties, ensure efficiency, and maintain the household's reputation for order and virtue. You must possess sharp organizational skills and a keen eye for detail, as any mismanagement reflects poorly on your husband and his standing. This isn't just about domestic harmony, it's about maintaining the intricate social facade of a powerful Roman family. You would spend hours meticulously checking inventories, ensuring provisions are stocked, and supervising the preparation of meals. even if you never personally set foot in the kitchen. Your influence over the household's finances, while indirect, is significant. You might advise your husband on investments, manage his personal accounts, or even run small family businesses through trusted agents, although always under his ultimate legal authority. This informal power is a fascinating aspect often highlighted by historians studying Roman elite women. They were economic managers, not merely decorative figures. You might not own property independently, especially in cum manu marriages, but you certainly controlled its expenditure within the domestic realm. Your days are filled with these administrative duties, punctuated by social calls from other respectable Roman women. Quiet moments spent spinning or weaving even as a symbol of domestic virtue, not out of necessity, and supervising your children's education. You rarely leave the house unchaperoned, and your public appearances are usually limited to religious festivals, family ceremonies, or carefully orchestrated visits to the baths. The outside world, with its bustling forum, political intrigue, and military campaigns, is largely off-limits, a distant realm dominated by men. You hear about it. You might even influence it through your husband or sons, but you do not directly participate. For women in plebeian or less affluent households, the household is far from a golden cage. It is a sphere of relentless physical labor. Your home, likely a cramped room in an insula, offers little comfort. There are no slaves to delegate tasks to. Your day begins before dawn, fetching water from the communal fountain, grinding grain for the morning's meager bread, and tending to the small, smoky brazier for cooking. You are the cook, the cleaner, the weaver, the mender of clothes, and the primary caregiver for your children. Your hands are constantly busy. You might spend hours spinning wool into thread, the rhythmic whir of the spindle a constant companion, or weaving coarse fabric on a simple loom. This isn't just a domestic chore, it's an essential economic activity. The cloth you produce clothes your family, and any surplus might be sold in the market, adding precious coins to the household income. You mend worn tunics, wash clothes in communal laundries, often using urine as a cleaning agent. Delightful. And keep your small living space as clean as possible against the constant influx of dirt and grime from the street. The daily ritual of cooking in a plebeian home is a struggle against limited resources and primitive conditions. You might share a communal hearth with other families in your insula, or rely on a small, smoky brazier in your room. The smell of burning charcoal, stale food, and unwashed bodies often fills the air. You prepare simple, repetitive meals, lentil stews, grain porridges, bread. There's little variety, and every ingredient must be stretched to feed your family. The constant pressure to feed hungry mouths, with so little, is a heavy burden. For both rich and poor, the nursery and childcare are a significant part of your domestic life. Whether you are supervising slaves, caring for your children, or directly nurturing them yourself, you are constantly engaged in their upbringing. You instill Roman values, teach them basic skills, and prepare them for their future roles. The incessant demands of childcare, from feeding and cleaning infants to disciplining older children, are a never-ending cycle, consuming much of your energy and time. Remember the high infant mortality rates? That adds a layer of profound anxiety to this otherwise universal experience. One surprising detail for modern eyes is the Roman attitude towards personal hygiene within the home. While public baths were a central part of Roman life, private baths or extensive plumbing were rare in plebeian homes. Your daily cleansing might involve a quick wash with water from the public fountain, and waste disposal involved chamber pots emptied into the streets. This contributes to the pervasive smells and health hazards of Roman urban living, making your domestic environment a constant battle against filth and disease. It's a rather stark contrast to the grand public bathhouses, isn't it? The concept of your home is deeply intertwined with your identity. It's where your Lara's household gods reside, where your ancestors are venerated, and where the family's honor is maintained. You are the guardian of this sacred space, responsible for its purity and order. Even if your home is a single, cramped room, it is your sanctuary, your realm of influence. So, your life as a Roman woman, defined by the boundaries of your household, is a testament to the immense power of domesticity in Roman society. Whether you are a wealthy manager of an opulent domus or a tireless laborer in a humble insula, your days are consumed by the demands of maintaining your home and nurturing your family. It is a life of routine, responsibility, and often, quiet influence, lived within the confines of what was considered your proper place. As you step, or are perhaps carried in a litter, beyond the threshold of your Roman home, you enter a world that is fundamentally different from your domestic sphere. This is the public life of Rome, a bustling, vibrant, and utterly male-dominated arena where your presence, if allowed at all, is largely veiled and voiceless. You exist within strict social norms, constantly aware that your every public action reflects not just on you, but on the honor of your husband and family. Imagine walking through the forum, while your husband would be debating politics, conducting business, or greeting fellow senators. Your role would be limited. If you are a woman of status, you might be escorted by slaves, discreetly visiting a temple to offer prayers, or perhaps meeting with other respectable matrons in a private area. Your attire would be modest astola, the traditional dress of a Roman matron, often worn over a simple tunic, and possibly a palla, a large shawl that could be drawn over your head to act as a veil. This veil wasn't just for fashion. It was a symbol of your modesty and respectability, signaling your adherence to proper Roman decorum. You would move with a quiet dignity, avoiding eye contact with strange men, and certainly not engaging in public conversation with anyone outside your immediate, approved circle. For plebeian women, public life is a matter of necessity rather than choice. You are in the streets to fetch water, to buy food at the market, to work in a shop, or perhaps to attend a public fountain. Your movements are less restricted by custom simply because they cannot be. Life demands your presence outside the home. However, you are still expected to maintain a degree of modesty appropriate to your station. While you might engage in lively haggling with vendors or chat with neighbors, your public interactions are still confined to practical matters, far removed from the political or intellectual discourse of men. Politics, the very lifeblood of Rome, is explicitly off-limits to you. You cannot vote. You cannot hold public office. You cannot speak in the Senate or the assemblies. Your opinions on state affairs, however astute, are irrelevant in the public sphere. Your male relatives might discuss politics at home, and you might even offer counsel behind closed doors. But your influence is always indirect, whispered in the ear of a husband or son, never publicly asserted. This fundamental exclusion from formal political power is a defining characteristic of Roman female existence. It's a common historical fact that Roman women, despite being citizens, had no voting rights. Even in legal matters, your voice is largely silenced. You cannot represent yourself in court. You must have a male guardian or advocate speak on your behalf. While some powerful women in the later empire found ways to exert influence through legal agents, the fundamental legal principle of male oversight remained. You are perpetually a minor in the eyes of the law, dependent on a male guardian to act on your behalf in any significant legal transaction or dispute. However, it's a fascinating nuance often debated by historians while officially voiceless. Roman women, particularly from the elite, found ways to exert informal power and influence. Through their connections, their family networks, and their control over household resources. They could subtly influence their husbands' careers, arrange advantageous marriages for their children, and even shape social trends. You might not speak in the forum, but you could host salon-like gatherings in your home, where influential men would meet, and your opinions, subtly offered, could carry weight. This makes the Roman woman's seemingly passive role quite complex in practice. It's almost like a hidden curriculum of power. Religious life is one of the few public spheres where Roman women had a more visible and active role. You could serve as priestesses in various cults, the most famous being the Vestal Virgins, who held immense prestige and were exceptions to many of the legal restrictions placed on other women. For ordinary women, you would participate in public religious ceremonies, offer prayers at temples, and engage in household cults dedicated to the lares and penates. These rituals were important communal activities, and your participation was valued for maintaining divine favor for the family and the state. This spiritual role provided a sense of purpose and public contribution that was denied in other areas. Attending public spectacles, like the games in the Colosseum or the Circus Maximus, was also one of your few legitimate reasons to be seen in a public gathering. However, even here, there were strict social protocols. You would sit in designated sections, often segregated from men, and your behavior would be expected to be decorous. You were there to observe, not to be observed unduly. The excitement of the races or the gladiatorial contests offered a rare shared experience. But even here, you were still under the weight of societal expectations. The constant pressure to maintain modesty and virtue in public is a heavy burden. Any behavior deemed immodest, speaking too loudly, laughing too freely, or appearing too often without a proper chaperone, could quickly lead to rumors and damage your family's honor. Your reputation is constantly under scrutiny, a fragile thing that could be shattered by a single misstep or malicious whisper. The consequences of scandal could be severe, impacting your husband's career, your children's marriage prospects, and your own standing. This intense societal policing of female behavior made public life a minefield of potential pitfalls. So, your public life as a Roman woman is a carefully orchestrated performance, a dance within strict boundaries. You are present, but often symbolically veiled. Your voice unheard in the halls of power. Your influence is indirect, your freedom curtailed, and your every action judged by how well it upholds the honor of the men in your life. It's a paradox. You are the silent pillar of the Roman family. But in the public eye, you are meant to be seen and not heard, a testament to the powerful, pervasive patriarchy that defined Roman society. As you prepare to step out into the Roman day, or even just to receive guests within your own domus, one of the most consuming aspects of your life as a Roman woman comes into sharp focus appearance. For you, maintaining Roman beauty standards is not merely a matter of personal vanity, it is a social obligation, a reflection of your family's status, and a crucial component of your personal and marital standing. And let me tell you, this pursuit of beauty is a costly, time-consuming, and often uncomfortable, if not downright painful, ordeal. Your day would often begin with a lengthy beauty ritual, especially if you are from a wealthy family. You would be attended by your ornatrix, a specialized slave trained in hair styling and makeup application. First, your skin. Roman ideals favored fair, unblemished skin, a stark contrast to the sun-kissed complexions of laborers. You would apply lead-based white makeup cerussa, a common historical fact that makes you cringe, knowing its toxic effects. This was mixed with chalk or other ingredients to create a paste that brightened the complexion, but could also cause skin irritation and long-term health issues. To achieve a rosy blush, you might use red ochre or plant-based dyes on your cheeks. For your eyes, the goal was often to make them appear larger and more expressive. You would use kohl, made from soot or antimony, to darken your eyelids and lashes, and also to define your eyebrows. Sometimes, small sticks were used to apply the kohl, creating a dramatic, almond-shaped eye. Lips might be subtly tinted with red pigment from plants or even from minium, another lead-based compound. Imagine applying these concoctions to your face daily, aware of the delicate balance between enhancing your features and risking irritation or even poisoning. It's a rather grim joke when you think about the lengths women would go to, even unknowingly, just to fit a societal ideal. Then there's your hair. This is arguably the most elaborate and time-consuming aspect of your beauty regimen, particularly for women of high status. Roman hairstyles evolved dramatically over time, often reflecting political trends or the personal preferences of empresses. In some periods, simple, elegant knots or braids were fashionable. In others, you might spend hours having your hair piled high in elaborate, multi-tiered arrangements, supported by combs, pins, and even false hair pieces gallery made from the hair of slaves or foreign captives. Your ornatrix would use hot curling irons, calamistra and tongs, heated over an open flame, to create intricate curls and waves. Imagine the smell of singed hair, the risk of burning your scalp, all for the sake of fashion. This complex hairstyling is a frequently depicted detail in Roman art and literature. For women of more modest means, these elaborate rituals were impossible. You would still strive for cleanliness and neatness, perhaps simply braiding your hair or tying it back with a simple ribbon. Your makeup would be minimal, if any, relying on natural pigments or simply the flush of health. Yet, the ideal of fair skin and intricate hair would still permeate society, a constant, unspoken comparison. Jewelry was another important aspect of your appearance, especially if you were wealthy. Necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and rings, often made of gold and adorned with precious or semi-precious stones, were status symbols. The more elaborate and numerous your jewels, the greater your family's wealth and prestige. For plebeian women, jewelry would be simple, perhaps a bronze ring or a string of glass beads, if anything at all. Clothing also played a role. While the men wore togas in public, you, as a Roman matron, would wear the stola, a long sleeveless tunic worn over an inner tunic, tunica intima. The stola was typically made of fine wool or linen, but for wealthy women, it could be silk or expensive dyes, sometimes intricately embroidered. Over the stola, you would wear the palla, a large rectangular shawl that could be draped elegantly over your body or pulled over your head as a veil. Your clothing was designed to be modest and elegant, reflecting your virtue and social standing. The color and quality of your fabric would immediately signal your family's wealth. One less pleasant, though necessary, aspect of personal care was depilation. Roman women, like men, often removed unwanted body hair, using methods such as pumice stones, tweezers, or even harsh depilatory creams made from resins or pitch. Imagine the pain and discomfort involved in such processes, all for the sake of achieving a smooth, clean aesthetic. It's a rather peculiar detail that highlights the lengths gone to for societal expectations. The pursuit of beauty in Rome wasn't just about looking good, it was about presenting yourself as a virtuous, respectable Roman woman, upholding the honor of your husband and family. Your appearance was a public statement, a carefully curated image. Any deviation from the norms, too much makeup, too revealing clothing, an unkempt appearance, could lead to whispers, gossip, and damage your reputation. This constant scrutiny, this pressure to perform the role of the ideal Roman woman through your physical presentation, adds another layer of constraint to your already circumscribed life. Historians still debate the extent of female agency in choosing their own styles, or if they were largely dictated by male preference and social pressure. So, your daily regimen is not merely about personal preference. It's about duty. It's about fulfilling societal expectations, enduring discomfort, and expending resources, all to present the image of the perfect Roman woman. And as you gaze at your reflection, perhaps with a touch of lead white on your cheeks, you know this performance is just another part of the exhausting role you play in ancient Rome. As you navigate the complex landscape of Roman marriage, one of the most crucial elements, and often a source of both power and vulnerability, is your dowry dose. We touched on this briefly before, but its significance in the event of divorce or your death cannot be overstated. Your financial security, and indeed your very standing, are inextricably linked to this property, making the dissolution of a marriage a precarious, legally intricate affair for you, the Roman woman. Historically, in the earlier form of marriage cum manu, where you passed entirely into your husband's control, your dowry effectively became his property. If he divorced you, or if he died, recovering any part of it could be difficult and depended heavily on his goodwill or specific clauses. However, as the sine manu marriage became more prevalent, where you remained legally under your paterfamilias, the dowry's purpose shifted, making its return a more defined legal expectation. This property, though managed by your husband during the marriage, was generally understood to be returned to you or your family if the marriage ended, particularly through divorce not initiated by your wrongdoing. This evolution reflects a slow, incremental, and still incomplete shift in female financial security within Roman law. Imagine the scenario: your marriage, for whatever reason, is failing. Perhaps your husband has been unfaithful, or you have simply fallen out of favor with his family, or more tragically, you have failed to produce sufficient male heirs. In Roman society, divorce was remarkably easy, especially compared to many other ancient cultures. A husband could simply declare his intention to divorce his wife, often for reasons that seem trivial by modern standards. For you, this means a sudden, drastic upheaval of your life. You are uprooted from the home you have managed, separated from your children who typically remained with the father, as they were legally part of his familia, and thrust back upon your original family. The immediate concern is the return of your dowry. This is your safety net, your financial anchor. Without it, you are largely dependent on the charity of your paterfamilias or other male relatives. Roman law generally stipulated that the dowry should be returned, but the process could be slow, contentious, and subject to various deductions. For example, if your husband claimed you had mismanaged household funds or were guilty of adultery, the ability of your family, particularly your paterfamilias, to press for the full and swift return of the dowry was crucial to your prospects for a new marriage or simply for supporting yourself. This financial leverage, however indirect, gave your original family a significant interest in your marital stability. It's a key historical detail that distinguishes Roman divorce from that of many other ancient societies. Your reputation is another fragile asset that takes a severe hit during a divorce. While men could divorce with relative ease and little social consequence, a divorced woman, regardless of fault, often faced societal scrutiny. If your husband alleged infidelity, even without proof, your social standing could be ruined, making it difficult to secure another advantageous marriage. The double standard was blatant: male infidelity was often tolerated, while female infidelity could lead to severe punishment, including social ostracism or even death in some periods. This disproportionate burden of maintaining moral purity fell squarely on your shoulders. Now, consider the grim reality of death. If your husband dies, your situation depends heavily on the type of marriage you had and the provisions of his will. If you were in a cum manu marriage, you might be treated as a daughter for inheritance purposes. But if he died intestate without a will, you might receive nothing or very little, depending on the period and specific laws. In a sine manu marriage, your dowry would be returned to you or your original family. However, even with the return of your dowry, you would still require a new male guardian, often your eldest son. If he was of age, you rarely truly escaped male legal oversight. The grief of losing a husband is compounded by the practical anxieties of your future. Will you be able to remarry? Will your original family take you back? Will you have enough to support yourself? For a Roman woman, especially one past childbearing age, widowhood could be a lonely and financially precarious existence, unless you had adult sons who could support and protect you. A rather unique, and sometimes morbid, aspect related to dowries and inheritance is the concept of funeral expenses. If a woman died during the marriage, especially without children, debates could arise about whether her funeral expenses should be covered by her dowry, or if her husband was obligated to cover them. This highlights how every aspect of a woman's life, even her death, was financially scrutinized and connected to her dowry. It's a rather cold clinical detail about how Roman society viewed women in terms of their financial contributions and obligations. Historians still examine legal texts to understand the intricate rules surrounding dowry return and funeral costs. Despite these vulnerabilities, some Roman women, particularly in the later Republic and early Empire, managed to amass considerable wealth and influence through inheritances, especially in sine manu marriages or shrewd management of their dowries. They might engage in business, invest in property, or act as patrons themselves, demonstrating a degree of agency that was often at odds with their formal legal status. However, even these powerful women still operated within a system of male guardianship, relying on male legal representatives to conduct their affairs. Their power was always, in some sense, borrowed or mediated. So, your dowry is not just a gift, it's a legal tether, a financial lifeline, and a symbol of your value within the Roman marital system. Its return, or lack thereof, upon divorce or death, fundamentally dictates your future security and autonomy. This precarious balance, where your financial well-being is often at the mercy of legal technicalities and male will, underscores the persistent limitations on your life as a Roman woman. Even in the face of what might seem like increasing freedoms, as you live your life as a Roman woman, the demands of the household and the strictures of public appearance consume much of your time. Yet, beneath the surface, the Roman economy, vast and complex, often touched your life in ways both direct and indirect. Your relationship with work and wealth is peculiar, largely defined by the limitations imposed by your gender and your legal status, rarely granting you true financial autonomy in the way men experienced it. If you are a woman from a wealthy family, you are likely involved in managing your husband's household finances. This isn't just about balancing a budget. It involves overseeing vast sums of money, managing investments in land, urban property, or even shipping ventures. You would direct slaves who handled the actual transactions, ensuring that your husband's wealth was preserved and, ideally, expanded. While the property might legally belong to your paterfamilias or husband, especially in cum manu marriages, your practical influence over its management can be immense. You might advise on purchases, sales, or loans, turning your domus into a central hub of economic activity. This often unseen managerial work, while technically not working in a public sense, was crucial to the financial health of elite Roman families. It's a key historical fact that wealthy Roman women, though legally dependent, often wielded significant informal economic power. However, direct participation in public business ventures was often frowned upon for women of status, though not entirely prohibited. While you might invest in ventures through male agents, appearing publicly as a businesswoman could be seen as immodest or unseemly for a respectable matron. The ideal was for your economic influence to be exercised discreetly, from within the confines of your home, through the men in your life. This societal expectation effectively placed a glass ceiling on your direct economic ambition. For women of more modest means, particularly in plebeian households, your work is explicit and essential for your family's survival. You are not managing investments. You are producing goods and services. You might be engaged in spinning and weaving, turning raw wool into fabric for your family's clothing or for sale in the market. The rhythmic clatter of the loom is a constant soundtrack to your days. This is a fundamental cottage industry, with your labor directly contributing to the household's income. You might also work outside the home, though generally in professions deemed appropriate for women. Many plebeian women worked as midwives, wet nurses, laundresses, or food vendors. You might run a small stall in the bustling Roman markets, selling produce, bread, or simple prepared foods. This requires significant physical labor, long hours, and constant haggling. The money you earn, though often meager, is crucial for feeding your family and paying rent. It's a harsh reality that your labor is often valued less than that of a man, even for comparable work, reflecting the pervasive gender bias of the time. One fascinating, though often overlooked, detail is the role of women in the fulling industry. Fullers were responsible for cleaning and treating wool and finished cloth, a rather messy and odorous business. Women were frequently employed in these workshops, often engaged in tasks like treading cloth in vats of water and urine used as a cleaning agent. This highlights that Roman women, especially plebeians, were involved in a wider range of industries than often portrayed, even in less glamorous, more physically demanding roles. It paints a picture far removed from the idealized domesticity sometimes presented. Another common avenue for plebeian women was working in the various taverns or inns capone that dotted the Roman city. You might serve food and drink, manage the establishment, or even engage in less respectable activities depending on the establishment's reputation. This provided a living, but often came with social stigma and dangers. The concept of inheritance is also complex for you. While Roman law evolved to allow women to inherit property, particularly in sine manu marriages, this did not equate to full financial autonomy. Any significant inheritance would still typically be managed under the guardianship of a male relative. While some exceptionally wealthy women, like the famous Pompeian patroness Eumachia, amassed considerable fortunes and used them for public works, their situations were often unique and still navigated within a patriarchal legal framework. The legal complexities around female inheritance are still a lively area of academic debate. Slavery, too, affects your economic life. If you are a wealthy woman, your household runs on slave labor, freeing you for managerial or social duties. If you are a plebeian woman, you are constantly competing with slaves for work, driving down wages and making your struggle for survival even harder. There's no fair wage for you when your male or enslaved counterparts can be hired for less. This ubiquitous presence of slave labor is a critical factor influencing the economic opportunities available to free Roman women. Ultimately, your relationship with work and wealth is one of limited agency. You are often a crucial economic contributor to your household, whether through direct labor or shrewd management. Your ingenuity and tireless effort are often the silent engines that keep your family afloat. However, true financial independence, the ability to control vast sums of money or engage freely in large-scale commerce without male oversight, remains largely out of reach. Your economic activities are often indirect, mediated through male guardians or confined to specific traditionally female roles. It's a life where your economic value is undeniable, but your economic power is perpetually curtailed. As the curtain of Roman history slowly descends, you find yourself reflecting on a life defined by constraints. Yet, despite the pervasive legal limitations, the rigid social expectations, and the constant male guardianship, the story of the Roman woman is not entirely one of passive suffering. In a subtle yet profound way, you and countless women like you found myriad avenues to exert influence and agency, weaving threads of personal power into the tightly woven fabric of Roman society. Your life, for all its restrictions, demonstrates remarkable resilience amidst these limitations. Consider your role within the household. While your husband held patria potestas, you, as the paterfamilias, were the undisputed mistress of the domestic sphere. This wasn't merely about managing slaves, it was about shaping the very environment in which your husband and children operated. You controlled the household's daily rhythms, the education of your children, especially in their early years, and the atmosphere of the home. This indirect power, though often overlooked by modern historians focusing on public life, was immense. A wise and capable paterfamilias could significantly enhance her husband's reputation and contribute directly to his success, making her indispensable. This is a crucial point often emphasized by scholars. The domestic sphere, though private, was a recognized source of female power. Your influence extended to social networking. Roman society was built on intricate webs of patronage and social connections. As a high-status woman, you would host formal dinners and informal gatherings in your domus, cultivating relationships with other prominent families. You could subtly promote your husband's political ambitions, broker advantageous marriages for your children, or even disseminate information and gossip that could sway public opinion. Your drawing room, not the forum, was often where true social and political maneuvers began. For plebeian women, similar networks existed on a smaller scale, through shared labor, communal baths, and neighborhood interactions, creating vital support systems. Through your children, particularly sons, you wielded significant long-term influence. While your sons might legally be under their father's authority, their moral upbringing, their early education, and their values were largely shaped by you. As they grew into manhood, a respected mother could exert considerable moral authority and influence over their decisions, even in public life. Remember the powerful Roman matron Cornelia Africana, mother of the Gracchi brothers? She famously refused to remarry and dedicated herself to her son's education, later referring to them as her jewels. This showcases the potential for enduring maternal influence. Even within the confines of marriage, women could exert agency. While love was not the primary basis for marriage, companionship and affection often developed. A shrewd and intelligent wife could become her husband's trusted confidant and advisor, influencing his decisions behind closed doors. Some Roman legal texts even show wives making legal arguments for their husbands or advising them on financial matters. While not formal, this personal influence was a real form of power, often the most potent one available to you. The evolving Roman law itself, while still patriarchal, offered incremental opportunities for female agency. The rise of sine manu marriages, as discussed, allowed women to retain control over their dowries and inherit property from their natal families, providing a degree of financial independence previously unheard of. This enabled some wealthy women to become significant property owners, investors, and even patrons themselves, commissioning public buildings or funding projects, thereby leaving a tangible mark on the urban landscape. This financial leverage gave them a new form of soft power. Furthermore, within your religious duties, you found an important sphere of public life. As priestesses or participants in various cults, you performed vital rituals for the state and your family, contributing to Roman society in a way that was both respected and indispensable. The Vestal Virgins, though exceptional, illustrate the ultimate expression of female religious authority and public reverence. For ordinary women, participation in household cults and public festivals provided a communal outlet and a sense of belonging and contribution. And finally, simply through your resilience and endurance, you exerted a powerful, though often unacknowledged, agency to survive childbirth repeatedly, to manage a complex household, to navigate a restrictive social system, and to raise children who would become the next generation of Romans. This required immense strength, intelligence, and adaptability. Your quiet fortitude, your ability to make a life within severe limitations, ensured the continuation of Roman society itself. You were the enduring, often silent, force that kept the vast Roman machine turning. So, as the Roman light dims and the whispers of history invite you to sleep, remember that your life, as a Roman woman, was a paradox. You were legally dependent, socially constrained, and largely excluded from public power. Yet, within your domestic sphere, through your informal networks, your children, and your sheer determination, you found ways to shape your world, to influence the men around you, and to leave an undeniable, if often invisible, mark on the greatest empire of the ancient world. You were a testament to the enduring human spirit, finding power and purpose even within the tightest of golden cages.